Welcome to the Week 3 DraftKings Optimal Lineup and Stack Review. I'm Jason Gilbo. With me is Chris Myers, who broke down our optimal lineups as far as GPP, cash, and a stack lineup goes. You did a little review of last week, which had some big names in there.
Yeah. Some of the guys really kind of struggled last week, and because of that, a lot of the lineups kind of stunk it up. You can't expect that every week, but guys like Antonio Brown, AJ Green, even Andrew Luck kind of struggled a little bit and held down lineups that otherwise would have been pretty solid with guys like D'Angelo Williams. Still, they're just tearing it up. So, can't expect that every week. I'm thinking this week AJ Green and Brown should bounce back in a big way. So
Yeah, I definitely agree. He had Cam Newton, D'Angelo Williams, Kelvin Benjamin was there last week, but yeah, a couple injuries. It was a pretty injury-prone week too. Hopefully things are better this week. But as far as cash games go, a couple names that are still the same. I think it's pretty safe to say D'Angelo Williams is going to be the play basically until Bell, who comes back next week.
Yep, absolutely. It's just a must play. He plays like it's his last game of his life every game when he's in there. So, and he's just tearing it up. And this week, he's facing Philadelphia, who's been playing pretty well, but I don't think their defense can shut down that Steelers defense this week or offense this week. So, yeah, you got to play D'Angelo when you can. You got to plug him in.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like he pops up here. All three lineups, which makes sense. He'll be a chalky play, but I think he's well worth it. How do you feel about overall? I mean, obviously pairing him with Antonio Brown, who's, in a better spot than last week. And obviously, as you mentioned, we're not really too sure about that Philly defense. Obviously, they played the Bears. They played the Browns the first 2 weeks. This is kind of their first real test.
Yeah. I like the lineup the way it is here with, Cam and Williams, Brown. And Melvin Gordon, I think, has been a nice, getting off to a really good start. And against Indianapolis, that could be a nice shootout game. The one play that I'm thinking in the cash lineup that I'm a little iffy on was the Steve Smith play. He popped up in all three lineups as well. I like him a lot. And cash, I'd probably keep him in there. But I think in the GPP lineups, I may be willing to swap him out. With a few other options just to see, what happens there. I don't know if I want to go with Steve Smith heavy in all three lineups if I can avoid it. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think one decent matchup for him there. I mean, I think the price is the reason why he popped up there quite a bit. But it does seem the theme, I mean, in that cash game lineup, I think as far as running backs go, I mean, Melvin Gordon, Charles Sims, D'Angelo Williams, a pretty nice grouping there because, one, you got two guys who are going to get a full workload. Obviously, Williams, we know. But Sims and Gordon, I mean, now they're kind of step into a role where they're all by themselves.
Absolutely. Yep. So, yeah, and it seems like their pricing hasn't caught up yet. We'll see how they do this week. But, yeah, I think those three, are solid, as good as you can get at running back.
Yeah, definitely. And you look at, defenses here. Chiefs pop up, which is kind of an interesting one for me that I saw. How do you feel about Chiefs, or do you feel like you kind of roll a little bit elsewhere maybe?
Yeah, I guess defenses, I'm just kind of, it's hard to gauge this year. I don't know if it's early yet, but I'd stick with the Chiefs just to see. If there was other options, I would just be willing to play with anything just to see what happens. In a cash lineup, I'd probably try to go with a little safer defense. That's maybe a little more proven. Obviously, with this lineup, though, you're left with zero cash, so you'd have to do a little bit of flexing if you pay up for a defense. So that's why this week I think the Chiefs and Miller are kind of my two low ball swing for the fences picks here, and I'd be fine flying with that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you're kind of getting in Newton, when you're getting in Brown, you kind of take a little load off elsewhere, but I'm certainly okay with it. Tyler Lockett was the other name who came up here at 4,200. Pretty interesting choice, and I was honestly kind of surprised to see Stephon Diggs not pop up because his price was pretty cheap, but it looks like they're kind of going a little bit contrarian in that way.
Yeah. It's almost like they want a few odd contrarian picks in there. The Lockett pick, along with Smith, those were, like you said, were the two kind of the oddballs that I'd be fine rolling with, but I'd consider switching one of them. Maybe even like taking a flyer on a guy like Devontae Adams. He's got high upside, but really low floor. something like that. Maybe plug one of those guys in if you don't feel like playing both of those guys, just to get kind of creative. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of cheap wide receivers out there this week. Devontae Adams certainly in play, especially with that Packers high total. Looks like Jordy
yeah,
Nelson.
high scoring game, I think, with the Lions and Packers. So
Yeah.
yep.
In terms of GPP here, I mean, it goes a little bit of a different route. I mean, pays up for a tight end for Jordan Reed. How do you feel about that one this week?
I like this lineup. The Cole Beasley, yeah, that's the one that scares me the most. I'm not sure about that pick, but like I said in GPP, sometimes you just need a very random home run to be different and to kind of hurdle over other lineups out there in the field. So Beasley, you just never know. He could end up getting a touchdown and 40 yards, and that might be enough. But otherwise, yeah, I like it. Forsett was the other one that kind of flagged up there. You got a guy like McKinnon who you could plug in there. They're facing Carolina, obviously, so that makes things a little tough on McKinnon this week. But if you want to go with like a McKinnon or even the guy I like, and I may be switching him in everywhere, would be Chris Ivory playing. He may not get a full workload, but I think he can do some real damage with limited work. So I may trust him a little more than Forsett this week. But Forsett's a good play as well, playing Jacksonville, which may be another shootout game. So otherwise, yeah, Beasley was kind of the only real red flag for me in this lineup. The Chiefs are in there again, as you stated, but for GPP, that may be a little bit of a better play this week. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at this lineup overall, not a ton changed from that cash game lineup. It was just kind of a few pivots it made. But I mean, you brought up some good points about, McKinnon, Ivory kind of possibly being other guys you can go with instead of Forsett. Adams instead of Beasley. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of go. And as you mentioned, I think the Chiefs, obviously, in terms of a GPP, they're going to be a low-owned defense because we haven't really seen much from them this year. I like that win. I think the Jordan Reed, it kind of forces you to be a little bit different elsewhere.
Absolutely. Yep.
In terms of the GPP stack, it looks like it's just kind of rolling with a little AFC North theme. It keeps the Ravens in there and also kind of just mixes in the Steelers. But I like that Jarvis Landry pick that it threw in at the flex spot.
Yep. Yeah, Landry seems to be the chalk play this week. People are loving Landry and the Dolphins. And sorry about that. Harper, go away. So yeah, Flacco, Smith, and let's see. Sorry about that. Flacco, Forsett, and Smith are the Baltimore stack. I like them, but Landry's a nice flex play for sure this week. For other options for stacks, I was playing around with that may be a little heavier use than the Baltimore stack would be the Ryan Tannehill, Jarvis Landry, and Jay Ajayi stack. I think you'll be seeing a lot of that out there this week. But because of that, I like the Baltimore stack. It's different. It includes some guys with high ceiling, but a little more risk. But you solidify it with the Williams, Landry, Brown, and Baldwin, and you have a solid GPP lineup here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it puts it in a pretty good core. I mean, obviously, the Baltimore stack is very cheap. It's one of the cheaper stacks out there for this week, and I do like the Miami stack as well. I think that's going to be a popular one, as you mentioned.
Yep.
But overall, I think overall the stack lineup is pretty solid. A lot of upside. It goes with the Steelers defense, so it changes it up a bit from the Kansas City GPPs, which I feel like in a GPP, Steelers could be worth a look. I mean, not too sure yet out of Carson Wentz and that offense as far as what we can see.
Yeah.
So. And obviously, I mean, I think, the daughter over there is a big fan of Jarvis Landry, so she approves.
Yeah, she was pounding on the door to get her 2 cents in on Landry. So you got to roll with them now, everyone. That's your sign.
Yeah, definitely. So that's going to wrap things up for the Week 3 Optimal Stack and Lineup Review. Be sure to check out DailyFantasyCafe.com and be sure to head on over and check out Chris's article here on your reviews every week.
Yep. Good luck, everyone.